Okay, so leptin is your full-up hormone, and it is released by fat cells, right? So you would be forgiven for thinking that the more body fat you had releasing this leptin all the time, you'd be full up quite a bit. You would think that, right? The science is there. But unfortunately, what happens is known as leptin resistance. Cuckoo, cuckoo, everybody. Coach Rab here, and today's lesson is going to be called Why Am I Always Hungry? Now, whether you're following a weight loss plan or not, sometimes people feel like they're plagued with constant hunger. No matter how much they eat or how much they feel they eat, they feel constantly hungry. So I'm going to delve into some of the reasons as to why this might be. Now, I'll get the basic ones out of the way first, the ones you'll get bored of hearing and they're not that interesting, right? So first and foremost, sometimes when you're dehydrated, you can have feelings of hunger. Okay, so are you drinking enough water? It's the go-to. Whenever somebody says, are you hungry? You're drinking enough water. And I know people roll their eyes because they think that can't be the solution. But a lot of the time it is. In our busy lives, if we're not drinking enough, there's not enough fluid going into our stomach, and dehydration in general encourages us to go and eat. Why? Because we also get fluid from our food too, and our bodies know this. Okay, so when you're dehydrated or on the verge of dehydration, your body can encourage you to go and eat. Sometimes your body will also associate eating with drinking, and it'll be encouraging you to do both at the same time. So your first go-to is to find out, are you dehydrated? So have a large glass of water. The next thing you want to ask yourself is, are you bored? Okay, because boredom is sometimes one of the key reasons that we snack or convince ourselves we're hungry. There's a saying that I love, and it's called neurons that fire together wire together. And they're talking about neurons in the brain. So habits that you do together, okay, synchronized, basically they wire together, like watching TV and snacking, right? Now, whenever I watch a rugby game, I always crave a beer, right? Not watching football, but when I watch, because historically I've enjoyed a beer when watching rugby. So when I sit down to watch a rugby game without a beer, I kind of feel like something's missing. There was a period in my life where I developed a terrible habit where every time I was reading my book, I'd have a glass of red wine. And that was great if I was reading my book in the evening or on a weekend. But then I sat down to read my book during the day, and I thought, oh, something's missing. And I couldn't be drinking during the day if I was driving places and whatnot. So I had to sort of work my way out of that habit. The point is that sometimes boredom can play a factor. If you're not busy or you're not staying active enough, then your body then starts to trigger all these other things where it says, oh, wait a minute, food fills that comfort gap. Why don't you eat something? So you crave things that way. So that's the boring ones out the way first. So then into the interesting, or I think more interesting, I geek out on this stuff. So you've got your hunger hormones. You've got leptin and ghrelin. Now, ghrelin is the hungry hormone, if you like. Always think of hunger strikes, okay? So ghrelin is released and encourages you to eat. Okay, that's the one that's like your stomach's empty, it's in the morning, you might be thinking, oh, I'm hungry, I really want to eat. It's ghrelin. When that's abundant in your system, you can get quite hungry. And leptin is your full-up hormone. Okay, it's released by fat cells, and basically it tells your body you're full up, you can stop eating. Sometimes why you've had a very, very fatty meal, you're just like you're full up for hours on end afterwards. Now, if you eat processed foods, things with trans fats and lots of additives and goodness knows what else and preservatives, they can actually have a negative impact on your hormone cycle for the hunger hormones. Case in point, if you've ever consumed a McDonald's meal, right? You can eat the entire McDonald's meal and still be hungry afterwards. Where if you eat a home cooked meal that doesn't have all the additives and preservatives and that the processed McDonald's has, you eat it and you can be quite full up. Even if it's calorie for calorie the same, you'll find that you're not as full after McDonald's, or certainly you get hungry again sooner. So making sure that you're cutting out any processed foods from the diet can help with hunger too. Now, a bit more complex will be when we delve into leptin resistance. Okay, so leptin is your full-up hormone, and it is released by fat cells, right? So you would be forgiven for thinking that the more body fat you had releasing this leptin all the time, you'd be full up quite a bit. You would think that, right? The science is there. But unfortunately, what happens is known as leptin resistance. So the more body fat or more fat cells you have releasing leptin, you have an abundance of leptin in the system. Now imagine there was one door to your concert that you're all going to filter into. You're all at a concert ready for a rock and roll time. and there's one door, and there's tens of thousands of people trying to squash through one door, right? It just doesn't work. And it gets to the point, it becomes a safety issue. The security team might just say, you know what, we'll shut that door for now until we organise some neat lines so it's safe for everybody. So basically it's the same. When a leptin is in abundance in the system, right? Leptin is a receptor and it has a receptor site. If there's too much of it, they're all competing for the same site. It gets, because normally we bind and do its job. If they're all competing for the same site, it gets to the point where the receptor site starts rejecting it and you end up with leptin resistance, which is why somebody that carries more body fat finds it harder, or one of the reasons finds it harder to lose weight, because they will feel hungry more often because they've got a hormone in their system, likely in resistance, that's supposed to tell them they're full up and doesn't, because there's too much of it and they're all competing for the same site. So leptin resistance is a big thing. So how do we get around that? Well, there's another full up hormone called cholecystokinin, or is it cholecystokines? I've probably butchered that. CCK, right? Now, CCK is released when you eat fats and proteins, okay? And when that comes into the system, that acts as a full-up hormone and that will override your leptin. So if you are overweight and then you're trying to lose weight, you're still hungry, consume more protein and fats as part of your calorie makeup, and you will go a long way to helping reduce those cravings and that feeling of hunger. So there we have it. Just a nice simple lesson as to why am I feeling hungry all the time. So we delved into the very basics, which is the hydration and boredom. Tick them off. Second one, are you eating processed foods? Because they do have an impact on your hunger hormones. I made the case in point, fast foods, right? McDonald's especially. You can eat a lot of McDonald's compared to real homemade cooked food. It's because of the processed additives and preservatives, okay? And then, are you leptin resistant? Now, if you are overweight, there's a very high chance you're leptin resistant. And if that's the case, you want to make sure your diet is high in proteins and fats to stimulate CCK, and that'll help you feel full up for longer and get you through your weight loss journey. Take a breath, it's summer, summer.